Hey you guys, so for today's video I thought that we could sit down and do a sweat-proof, summer-proof, full coverage foundation slash face routine. I'm going to show you guys how I do my foundation, how I make sure that it's sweat-proof, it's budge-proof, it doesn't move for oily skin because I am oily. So this is going to be for my oily skin people. I think even if you're maybe like combination to normal, combination normal oily, I think this will be okay for you too, because these are products that I also use when I tend to be a little more drier in the winter months and cooler months as well, and they work just fine for me, and I'm gonna show you guys what I do. So let's go ahead and jump in. First things first, I am wearing a robe, and no, I'm not ashamed. I'm very comfortable and I don't plan on changing. We all know I have my disclaimer in the very beginning of every video. Actually, let me go ahead and zoom you guys in very quickly. Okay, I wanted to get you guys a little bit closer so you can get all up in the nitty gritty. Okay, when it comes to these warmer months, you don't wanna go in with super heavy products, right? We don't wanna go in with anything too heavy. That's where we can start to look cakey and we can look a little crackly and a little too overdone. And plus it's so effing hot outside. We just don't need a ton of products on the face, especially here in Texas. It's like 100 to like 105 degrees every single day. I like to take this time in these months to really make sure that my skincare is just perfect. What you put underneath to prep your face and prep your skin is going to help with your makeup and the products that you're using. I like to make sure that I go in with a nice moisturizer, a good eye cream, so my products sit nicely on top of my skin. So for moisturizer and eye cream, I already use these two, but the one I'm using right now for moisturizer is this one right here, and this is the Garnier Moisture Bomb Moisturizer. It has an SPF of 30. I use this every single day and I don't notice any weird flashback. Even though it does have SPF, my makeup still looks good in pictures and I have no issue with that whatsoever. So this is just a real nice lightweight moisturizer, especially if you are on the more oily side. You don't want to go in with a super rich heavy cream. If I go in with something too heavy, it's just gonna slip and slide everywhere. I can't go in with heavy day creams underneath my makeup because it's just gonna move and slide everywhere. Next for eye cream, I know it's not gonna focus because it's focusing on my face, but this is the Fresh Black Tea Age Delay Concentrate. My concealer goes over it really nicely. It doesn't make my concealer crease, or it doesn't make my eye shadow crease or anything like that. So just really nice lightweight products. I'm gonna go ahead and insert a picture of the eye cream that I normally use. I just ran out of it and I can't find my backup anywhere, but I ordered it on Amazon. It's called the L'Oreal Revitalift eye cream and I absolutely love it because it's such a nice lightweight formula, but it still gives my eyes the moisture that I need, and it's only around like 10 bucks. I cannot find it in stores anymore, but I know it is on Amazon. So I will make sure to link it below so you guys can check it out if you're interested. So let's start with primers. So I know a lot of people don't believe in primers. I am a big believer in primers. I've always believed in primers, and I just notice a difference when I don't use a primer, which is very seldom that I don't go in with a primer. Primers are just gonna help your makeup sit on top of your skin nicely. It's gonna give the foundation and concealers and powders something to grab to instead of just going on with your bare skin. If you are very oily in your T-zone and your foundation just slips and slides in that area, or if you're oily all over and your makeup just moves, you're gonna wanna go in with something either pore filling or more on the mattifying side so your makeup doesn't budge. So this is the Smashbox Photo Finish Foundation. I love the Radiance one. I don't take this everywhere. I only take this on the outer perimeters of my face. So I'll put it on my cheeks because I don't really get oily on my cheeks ever, and on my chin because I never get oily down there. I'm gonna keep this all blank and we're gonna go in with another primer for that. So I'm just gonna put this on the outer perimeter because I don't really get oily on that part of my forehead either. Now you don't have to do this. I am very high maintenance, as I've said many times before. You don't have to use multiple primers, but this is just what I like to do and this is what works for my skin. If you are oily or if you have issues with your foundation moving, I would recommend at least going in with maybe a more mattifying or pore filling primer in your T-zone. And if you don't want to use it on your whole face, you don't have to, but at least you have it in that part of your face where you get real oily. Sometimes if I'm in a rush, like really rushing, I gotta go and I just don't have time for all these steps, I'll go in with just a primer just in my T-zone and use my moisturizer as a primer on the rest of my face. I prefer not to do that. I prefer to do what I'm doing right now, but if you just don't don't have the money to spend on all these different primers, or you just don't want to do that, you can definitely just go in with a primer in your T-zone and it'll work just fine. So for my T-zone, I'm going to be taking this one right here. This is the Too Faced Primed and Peachy Mattifying Primer. This is one that I'm still testing out, but I've been using it for the last couple of days and I actually really like it a lot. So it comes out just like this, and I just take a little bit and I do like this little motion right here just to kind of make it a little more liquidy, and I just go right over my pores. And with mattifying primers, you want to go in with as little as possible. Sometimes mattifying primers, if you go in too heavy, even if you are very oily, because I am really oily, you guys, like I've noticed with the Makeup Forever mattifying primer and the Becca primer, those are like suck the life out of you matte. I can work with the Becca one, but the Makeup Forever one is just, it is so matte that my foundation just grabs to it. So I like this one because it doesn't do that. It's like a very nice natural matte. It doesn't make your foundation grab or anything weird like that. So I just put that all in my T-zone, and this is gonna help control the oil even further. So next what I'm gonna do is take my sponge. If you like to use a brush, you can go ahead and use a brush. I just prefer to use a sponge. I feel like with a sponge, you're gonna get the best application with your liquids because it's going to soak up all that excess product. So keep in mind, when we're going in with foundation, we still want to do full coverage. We still want to look flawless. We want our skin to look perfect, but you want to go in layers. You don't want to go in too heavy and just cake on all this product. So I'm going to take two different foundations. This is what I like to do for a situation like this. So I love the L'Oreal Infallible. This is the Pro Matte Foundation. Right now I'm in the shade number 107 Fresh Beige. This is a very nice natural demi matte foundation. You can use any mattifying foundation that you want. This is just the one that I like, and this is the best color for me right now. But what I like to do just to add a little bit of glow to my face and to just add a little bit of hydration, and I don't want to be too like matte, but I still want to be full coverage. I actually love to mix my foundations. I love to mix just products in general, but especially when it comes to foundations, not only to make the perfect color for me, but I just love to mix like a luminous foundation with a more matte foundation. And to me, it just gives me the most perfect finish. It's not too matte because I don't like my skin just crackly matte. I do like luminosity to it, but because I'm oily, I need it to stay in place. I feel like I still look like glowy and I look nice and my skin looks good, but I don't look super matte, but I'm not too greasy at the same time. And the two favorites that I love to go in with are either the Wet n Wild Photo Focus. This is just one of my favorite drugstore foundations ever, and the Physicians Formula Healthy Foundation. I'm gonna go ahead and do the Physicians Formula because it's a little bit darker and I'm pretty tan right now. Since we are working with a matte foundation, I feel like they do tend to dry a little bit faster, so I just go in section by section and I'm just gonna blend it out with my sponge. This is the L'Oreal sponge, one of my favorites. And by the way, forgot to mention the Physicians Formula Foundation is in the shade MW2. So I'm just gonna pounce this all over my face and make sure it's blended in. So this is the side I haven't put any foundation on yet. You can see where my rosacea is kind of showing. I'm a little more red on this side. And then on this side, it looks very pretty. It looks very natural. It's covered all my imperfections. I just did one thin layer. We don't want to go in with like a super thick layer. That is where we can start to get cakey and things can start to get like creasy and gross and heavy. And nothing to me is worse in the summertime than when you're wearing full coverage glam and it's hot as hell outside, and then things start to separate and you start to get all like crinkly up in here. So I just like to go in with a nice thin initial layer and then just see what I need to do from there. Okay, now this is the most important part of this entire video, okay? So I need you to pay attention at this part. When you get to the center of your face, your makeup always starts to separate in your T-zone because that's where you produce the most oils. I have all this left over on my hand, okay? I can totally just go in and do my whole T-zone, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm actually gonna take just whatever I have left over on my sponge and I'm gonna use that for my T-zone. That way, when you start to get oily and your makeup starts to separate, there's hardly any product on your nose and you're not gonna look too cakey. So this is what I always do, especially in the summertime, especially if I'm doing outdoor things. I always go in with just whatever is left over from my forehead or the rest of my sponge. And if I need more coverage, I'll go in and do a little bit more. So like, I feel like I need just a little bit more right here. I'm gonna take that. It's barely nothing, right? Just do a little dab right there and then just blend it in like as much as possible. There's gonna be less product that's gonna wear away, which is gonna help keep your skin look nicer and less cakey and smooth looking. So for concealer, we're gonna go in with the Shape Tape. The two shades I've been using are Light Medium Honey and Light Sand. So Light Medium Honey on me is more of a peachy color and it's gonna help counteract. And I'm just going in with a little bit because it is so thick, but the nice thing about Shape Tape is it's so full coverage and it very hardly creases. So I just take a little bit of light sand right underneath it just to help brighten up. So I've mentioned before, I have the most creasy under eyes in the entire world, and this concealer does crease on me if I don't bake it, but when I bake it and set it the way that I normally do, it does not crease at all and it looks so amazing. You can't deny that the coverage is amazing. Like, look at that. It looks so good, right? This is another reason you don't want to go in too heavy with the foundation. I always like to take my concealer down here. So keep in mind, you are going to go in with concealer. And if you do, that's another layer of product that you're adding onto your foundation. So you don't always have to go in and go super thick and crazy with the foundation, especially if you're going to go in with concealer, because that's going to add a little bit of coverage as well. So I just like to bring it down here because I like a really bright under eye. I always do my eyes one eye at a time with Shape Tape because it dries so fast. And I just like to take my time blending. So take it up in the inner corner, especially if you have darkness, it's gonna help cover up all of those dark circles up in that very inner corner of your eye. Now what I like to do, instead of going in and highlighting with additional concealer and putting more products and more layers on my face, I just actually like to take whatever is left over on my sponge, and then that way you're not going in with all these other additional layers of product, but you still look even and you still look highlighted and everything still looks good. I'm gonna use my Brighten Up Banana Powder. This is from Essence. I'm gonna take it with my e.l.f. tapered brush. Just tap off the excess, and then we're going to pat out the creases. This is essential. Go in with a nice little amount of powder because I'm gonna go in and bake just to ensure that nothing creases and my concealer doesn't budge all day. I just like to set it first. I find that because I have such dark under eye circles, I just have to go in and set before I bake. And that helps keep my eyes looking very bright. Since I am gonna bake anyways, I just like to go in with a very light layer of powder to set my concealer. I'm gonna go ahead and use my Too Faced Peach Perfect Powder. I'm still testing this out, but I wore this same exact concoction that I'm showing you guys on camera to a graduation party over the weekend. Sorry, there is a hair in my eye. And it was an outdoor party and it was like 105 that day. I was just drenched in sweat, and when we left and I got into my car, I looked in the mirror and my makeup looked so good. Like, I was oily and I got greasy, of course, because I'm so oily, but nothing moved. My foundation didn't look weird. You know how sometimes when your foundation starts to wear away, it'll wear like in weird areas, or you can see it settling in your lines? All I did was take a blotting sheet. I didn't even have to repowder, and I used the same exact concoction that I'm showing you guys right now. So again, before I go in and powder, I just like to go in with my damp sponge and just kind of run it across the face just to make sure everything's blended. Maybe pick up any excess product. So I'm gonna take my Sonia Kashuk brush. I'm gonna go in with a very light, like that's actually too much. So see, there's barely anything on my brush. I'm gonna go in and set everything. I like to just kind of pack it into the face. Sometimes when you buff or anything like that and you're going in before you even set your foundation or anything, it can move your foundation. So I like to tap. I'm going in with as little product as possible. Like, it's just honestly barely covering the tip of my brush, and I do the same thing when I get to my T-zone. So I'm just gonna take whatever is left over and do my nose, because for me, product just never wants to stick to my nose. That's the first place it always starts to wear away, is in this area. And that's where I notice when my makeup is like it's done for the day. It always looks the worst right here. So I just found over the years of trial and error, I just go in with as little product as possible, especially in my T-zone. That just really helps my makeup stay looking fresh and it looks nice all day. I like to take this little BH Cosmetics brush. This is the V17. It just fits so perfectly right in here. And then right above my eyebrows, I always get really oily, especially right above here. So I just love this little brush because I like to do my brows first. So it just goes right in there. Just make sure everything is pressed in, especially right around here where product likes to gather. Just make sure it's pressed in really nicely. I'm just gonna take that same powder and bake underneath my eyes. I don't really like to go in too heavy-handed with the baking. I like to use a little amount of product. It's like the motto of this video, go in with small little layers of product, but I just find that as the day and the hours pass, you know, your makeup just starts to fade. That's just the reality of it. But I notice when I just don't go in super heavy, especially underneath my eyes, my concealer lasts longer. We'll bake right around here, especially in the summer months, because I have smile lines because I'm old. So makeup settles right in this area for me. So I will go right around here just with a little bit of product. Like I'm not going in heavy-handed whatsoever. I'll take just about that much and then just do right in the center. Taking my butter bronzer, of course, and this is a BH Cosmetics. This is a V11 brush. I mentioned these brushes in my affordable brush video. This is like such a good bronzer brush. This is their vegan brushes. Just gonna take this around the hairline so we look nice and sun-kissed. Take it down onto the neck so everything blends together. I'm gonna take some of MAC's Gold Deposit with this little Luxie duo fiber brush. Just gonna go around the forehead. It just looks so pretty. I just love the way that this looks with the butter bronzer. And I love a shimmery face in the summertime. I'm just gonna go ahead and dust all this powder off my face. The nice thing about this powder is that it's pretty translucent. Like it has a little bit of a peachy tint to it, but because it's translucent, it doesn't have that extra coverage. I don't really like to go in and use like more heavier coverage powders with more fuller coverage foundations. I just find that I get super cakey like that. And then for blush, I'm gonna take this one from Flower Beauty. This is in the shade Peach Primrose. I'm not really like a peachy fan, but this is like a really nice warm peach. So I'm just gonna put this on my little cheekies. This is also a really nice long-lasting blush. I think it retails for around $10. You could get it at the drugstore, so pretty affordable in my opinion. They are so good for the money and they really last all day long. Blush is the first thing to fade. When your makeup starts to fade away, that's just a fact, that's the reality of it. Blush fades first. So I like to go in just a little bit heavier, and then I will take a bronzer brush like this and just kind of like mesh it into everything else. And then we're gonna go in and highlight. I'm gonna be taking my Maybelline Molten Gold. I just like always have to pull this out, especially when I'm tan, because it is so good. This highlight is so blinding. It lasts all day long. It's affordable. Like what, honestly, more can you ask for? I just wish that they had a little bit of a more champagne gold color. I know they came out with some new colors, but they're too dark for me. I just love to layer on the highlight in the summer. I'm just such a highlight junkie. I've bought so many new highlights. I'm just obsessed. Like I can't stop buying highlights. And I found so many good ones at the drugstore. Oh my God, they're amazing. I like to do my chin because I want to look like I just ate a bucket of greasy chicken. Just do the very tip of the nose. With whatever I have left over, I'll take it down to the center of the nose. This is a Sarah makeup tutorial, and because I am just so over the top extra and high maintenance, I'm gonna take a little bit of Kylie Santorini, and I'm gonna take this just on the very top of the cheekbones, like just to give it that extra umph. The camera doesn't even do it justice. It looks stunning in person. This is my new thing lately, is using a powder highlight and then taking a loose highlight and just sussing it at the very, very top of my cheekbones. Like, that just looks so beautiful. I literally could die right now. I'm gonna settle all of these powders so we don't look too powdery and we don't look too like overdone. And for that, I'm gonna use my favorite. This is the Mario Badescu Rose Water Spray, and I love this spray so much because it makes your skin look so natural. It looks so just normal. Like, it looks like your skin. It really helps to just settle everything. Now, I know a lot of people like setting sprays. I am not a believer in setting sprays. I do not use setting sprays. I don't use them on myself. I don't use them on my clients. I just don't believe in them. I think they are gimmicky. I've actually tried many setting sprays and I just don't see a difference. If you guys see a difference, that's fine. Whatever works for you, the more power to you. But for me, I don't notice a difference in the longevity of my makeup, at least. Now, I love sprays to settle your powders. I always go in with a facial spray, but I prefer facial sprays over setting sprays because they hydrate your skin. They make your skin look more natural. It kind of plumps up your skin. It makes you look more radiant. I don't think you should have to spend $30 on a setting spray when you could get something like this for like under 15. You know what I mean? And this lasts me forever. I go through this like every couple of months, so pretty inexpensive, and I feel like it makes my skin just look so perfect. It doesn't make anything move or crease or do anything like that. It doesn't add those weird spots to your face. I can't recommend it enough. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and finish off the rest of my face. I'll do my lips, lower lash line, and then I will be right back. This is how everything looks put together. At the very end, you can see it's very radiant, it's very glowy, very minimal, but extra at the same time, if that makes sense. All these products that I talked about are just the longest lasting products that I have found to really help me through the summertime and get through those hot months while still keeping my makeup looking nice and fresh and pretty, and it's not too cakey and not too heavy and it's not too much, but it still looks good. You know what I mean? I just want to thank you guys again and remind you how appreciated it is when you guys subscribe to my channel, when you like my videos, when you comment on my videos, when you talk to me. Just know that it is always appreciated, and I will continue to say it for as long as I make these videos. So thank you guys again so much for watching. I will list everything below that I used on camera and off camera. Let me know what else you guys want to see. Make sure you subscribe before you go. Give me a thumbs up, and I think that's all I have to say. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.